Welcome to the Future of Structures podcast, where we talk to the experts who are evolving our buildings for tomorrow. And here is your host, Adam Jones.
Today we are speaking with Paolo Bevilacqua, who is the Head of Sustainability at Frasers Property. So Frasers have this ambitious goal of getting all of their developments to carbon positive within 10 years. That is only 2028. So with these hugely ambitious goals, they're not going to come without their challenges, but Paolo, you're going to find out in this interview that carbon positive is not only possible, it might also be preferable economically. So in this interview, we talk about their 10-year roadmap for carbon positive, also real utilities, which is really exciting, a cheaper and greener energy offer that they have for their Frasers developments, and sustainability initiatives for industrial development. So some of the low-hanging fruit, but they've achieved some huge sustainability outcomes in their new warehouse developments. So I really enjoyed speaking to Paolo. He's one of the biggest legends I've ever really interviewed or even come across. He's just a great guy and great to listen to. I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did speaking to him. So without any further ado, here is Paolo.
Yeah, sure. I started as a civil and environmental engineer, so studied that at uni, just out of curiosity for engineering, and the environmental side of it kind of got me interested in sustainability and some of those environmental issues. And coming out of that, as part of that, I did a thesis on sustainable living and looking at retrofitting a residential home to make it obviously more sustainable and all those initiatives that you think of. And just was really just engaged with the whole subject and the kind of different areas it was branching into. It was so diverse. I had a lecturer at uni that really just got me interested. He was a guy who had a house in inner city Sydney and was trying to convert it to be kind of off-grid. But this is 20 years ago. So it was pretty radical to do.
Engineering lecturer.
He was kind of an environmental lawyer. And he was just having so many challenges trying to do it. And I thought, well, this guy's trying to actually do the right thing. It's his own home, and he's coming up against so many barriers. And that kind of interested me, that challenge, as well as the actual technical kind of diversity of kind of subject. And yes, that's how I got into it. Started out of uni, coming out of uni, got a role at Lend-Lease. Which is a great place to land. I was pretty fortunate and started getting involved in some really interesting kind of large-scale projects. Yeah.
Awesome, amazing. And so then you moved to Frasers and talking about challenges, we were just talking off air about a roadmap that you guys have to aiming for zero carbon on all your developments within 10 years. Is that correct? Yeah,
so where we've recently kind of come up with a target to be carbon positive by 2028. And 2028, on one hand, sounds a little while away, but at the same time, it's only 10 years. And so we've obviously already on a path, and we're doing a fair bit in the carbon and energy space. But we've set ourselves as part of that target this year, we've got to develop that roadmap. So in 2018, we'll be coming up with, that kind of pathway to get to carbon positive over the next 10 years. And we've already, as I said, put in place a few things that will kind of help us get there. It'll be pretty critical, but it's an enormous project, and the scope of it when we start thinking of our business really raises more questions than answers. Yeah, that's right. You're saying just before the boundaries. Where do you set the boundaries for what carbon neutral or carbon positive actually is? Do you include the transport and so forth, right? Yeah, exactly. So we're a business that develops, anything from a land lot in a residential housing community, through to managing, large industrial and office and retail assets. So then you look within those, and there's various things that produce carbon. There's obviously the embodied carbon, and then there's the operating energy, but then there's ongoing things like the waste and the associated carbon, the transport, and where do we draw the boundary around what our impact is, and in those different product types or asset types. Yeah. One of the amazing initiatives I saw that you guys are doing in some of your developments is a new thing you're bringing in called real utilities. Yep. Is that right? Did I pronounce it? Is that the right words for it? Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Can you just tell us a little bit about that and how it could possibly work? Yeah, so real utilities is an entity that we've set up, so kind of a separate it's a wholly owned company of Frasers, but separate entity. And it's an authorised energy retailer and embedded network operator. Yeah, so what that means is that we'll be able to provide within our developments the energy products. So we'll be able to sell you your electricity if you buy one of our apartments or live in one of our buildings, and the gas and potential other forms of energy, such as your hot water and your air conditioning, depending on the project. So it just allows us to be a bit more flexible in the energy infrastructure we put in that building, because we've got a long-term play now in that infrastructure. It's not, traditionally property companies, if you talk about a residential building, you build, you sell, you're done.
So you can look for the longer term with your developments now, rather than just get them out quickly. Is that right?
Well, yeah, it means we can do more interesting things around energy. So, for example, we might invest more in solar. So, solar might have been something we would have done anyway, but we might upscale the system because we may combine that with some battery storage, which may not be feasible if you look at it purely at a point of sale of an apartment. But if you look at it in terms of what value can that bring over a longer period, if you own that bit of kit.
Yeah, amazing.
So we could invest a bit more in the energy infrastructure. Or it might be, some of the central plant, that we might put in. So generating air conditioning energy or hot water centrally, and using, up-speccing the equipment so we can do it more efficiently, and reaping some of the returns from that additional investment we made up front.
Yeah, awesome. So will it be greener electricity? Are you obviously anticipating?
Yeah, we're trying to. We've got a certification on our energy and electricity, which is from the federal government, National Carbon Offset Standard. So our product that we're selling is carbon neutral energy.
Wow.
But how we're doing that at the moment is through offsets, and we see that as a bit of a transition. Like carbon offsets, there's really credible ones out there internationally and locally in Australia. But we're really trying to shift to being 100% renewables in our energy supply in these projects. So, we're still a small company within Frasers. Rural Utilities is, and so just getting, we're just getting our strategy right so we can generate renewable energy both on site in the development, but also off site, because acknowledging that higher density developments will struggle to generate everything on site. So we need to find another solution. Yeah. Cool.
So the off-site ones, and when you're doing the offset, so what's that kind of look like for the higher density apartments? So there'll be another whole area with solar panels or something like that. Yeah. Yeah,
something along those lines. So we've got a portfolio. So we're a pretty diversified property group. So we've got a portfolio of industrial buildings that we own and manage, as well as retail buildings, office, and then we develop residential estates and communities. So if you look at something like a retail and a residential estate, pretty high-ish energy users, but not a lot of generally denser developments, so not a lot of roof space to put your solar on. Whereas an industrial building, lots of roof space, not a huge energy user. So we can start to do some interesting things with having rural utilities in place around how we might be able to generate on one and use on another, and also just other off-site strategies, corporate power purchase agreements potentially, or direct equity in a wind or solar farm, where we take a share of the energy produced by that.
Yeah, cool. And what about, is it cost competitive with the big three in Melbourne? I think I saw the big three on your website. I forget who the big three actually are.
The big three generally across Australia, and when you say the big three, it's kind of anywhere you go in Australia seems to be about 85 to 90% market share.
Gotcha.
Are AGL, Energy Australia, and Origin.
Yep.
And we benchmark our electricity tariffs against what they offer. So, they typically update their prices once or twice a year. Really, it depends somewhat, but we'll always make sure that we're pegging our prices a bit below those, and so that we can keep that promise of being cheaper to our customers, because we want the saving not just to be about an environmental one, but obviously also an economic one. We find they're the sustainability initiatives that really kind of take off. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And what is the uptake been since you've released real utilities? Has there been a lot of demand for it, or do you envisage this kind of model you're doing to be huge in the future?
Yeah, so we launched the business about 12 months ago, and from that point, a lot of it was integrating the solution into our projects that were kind of under development.
Yep.
So, and building all the back-end systems that go with being an energy retailing business. So, your billing systems and your customer service, your call centre team and so on.
Yep.
Getting all those operations right. So, but to date, we've got 2 buildings up and running that
Cool.
we're providing the electricity in. They're both in Sydney. We're starting off the next, over this year we'll have a number of other buildings come online, including a couple of retail ones. So they're residential ones. We'll have a couple of retail ones, and then just continuing to grow after that in line with, because we're servicing Frasers development projects. As Frasers completes more and more buildings, they'll become
Definitely
integrated into that business.
Yeah, awesome. That's really exciting. Another technology that I've seen you guys incorporate into a lot of your developments is geothermal air conditioning. Can you just tell us a little bit about that before we jump into some of the details?
Yeah, geothermal heating and cooling or air conditioning is technology. It's not really new. It's kind of been around for quite a long time. Predominantly in Europe, used for heating. So in the Australian market, there was very, very little application of it. It hadn't really been commercialised here because we have predominantly cooling environment. But in basic terms, it uses the natural stable temperature of the ground as your heat rejection source to help you generate your heating and cooling much more efficiently than a traditional system.
Definitely, and then obviously not using any electricity for that. And what about this compared to using electricity? Is it much cheaper, and can you have the same kind of efficiency and utility with this? Yeah,
so look, it still uses electricity. It's got a ground source.
Heat pump.
Some people call it a ground source heat pump. So basically, pumps refrigerant into a loop in the ground, and the refrigerant kind of enters the ground at a high temperature, anywhere from 78 to 90 degrees. And works its way down through the ground, depending on how big your home is and how big your building is, how much heat rejection, air conditioning you need. Works its way down deep, sometimes up to 90 metres into the ground, and then comes back up. Yeah, so the ground stays amazingly stable under once you get below a few metres. Pretty much anywhere in Australia, it sits at around 19, 20 degrees, somewhere along those lines.
Yeah.
So refrigerant gets pumped down with this heat pump, comes back up. It's condensed or depending on what you're doing, what mode you're in, and then goes into a fan core unit in the home, which is kind of in the home. It's pretty much the same. Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
And what kind of developments is this most suitable for? Like more lower density buildings?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean anywhere. What we're finding is up to lower density, both from an energy point of view and also an actual physical point of view. So if you're talking about, if you're going over 3 stories, it becomes challenging because you're relying on a ground source heat pump, so it needs to sit on the ground. And if you're looking at any high energy intensive use of like a shopping centre, you could use it to supplement part of your air conditioning, but it'd be difficult because of the amount of ground loops you need to have to actually get the heat rejection into the ground you need to service a shopping centre. But works really well with residential. We're seeing savings of around 60% of our energy compared to a conventional ducted aircon system. Yeah, so it's pretty significant.
Amazing. What's the payback period? I imagine that the upfront costs are a bit more. How long does it take until the investment is even, I guess?
Yeah, if you look at it in kind of simple payback terms, it's hard to do because if you went and did one at your own house, it'd probably cost you $30,000, right?
Yeah, okay.
But we're doing it at scale across 800 homes. So you're paying more up front. It's probably 20 or 30% more up front compared to a kind of fully ducted aircon system.
It's not a hell of a lot.
No, it's not. But the saving you'll get, so for an average home, you might get $500 or $600 a year savings in energy price in electricity, and that So simple payback might be 5 or 6 years.
Yep.
Roughly speaking. Yeah.
Nice. And another really cool, I guess, set of projects that you guys are working on is in the industrial space and a bunch of warehouses. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these projects that you have going on at the moment?
Yeah, so in industrial, we've kind of took the view a few years ago that there was a lot happening in the office sector around energy efficiency, with NABERS ratings and some of those other, big focus on energy efficiency. And the industrial sector, often you had similar corporates in those spaces, but there was less attention being put on there. So we saw that as a real opportunity. That was only a matter of time that industrial customers would be more consider energy and the impact on their business more seriously. So we took a view probably a little bit ahead of the market.
Yep.
And started focusing on energy efficiency both in new industrial developments. Basic stuff like solar hot water and LED lighting. You take it for granted that's just happening in every building, but in the industrial sector it isn't. Is
that right?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's caught up now. It probably has across some of our peers, but when we looked at it, there was still a lot of very inefficient lighting going up.
Yeah.
And so we've got a commitment now. All our new industrial buildings have got a range of energy efficiency stuff, the LED lighting, but they've also all got solar panels now on them. And so we're seeing some warehouses that are basically not consuming energy.
Oh, wow.
So, because if you put really efficient lighting in, that's often the predominant energy use. There's not much happening in them. There's forklifts moving around and moving some stock. Yep. They might have a small office attached to them. If your lighting's smart, it's turning off during the day because you've got translucent sheeting bringing in daylight. So it's a good all-round solution, both in terms of the quality of the lighting. LED is a better product for being able to work in a warehouse space. You can see product on shelves better and picking errors are reduced and all that stuff. But the energy is the energy savings are just a no-brainer. So we've been doing that now for a while, and we see kind of that industrial sector as one of the keys to really moving to that carbon positive and helping our kind of broader portfolio shift to being carbon positive, because we've got a lot of roof space that can be accessed, and with real utilities now, we can start to do some interesting things around that. Yeah.
Out of all your developments you got going at the moment, what is the easiest to get to carbon positive? Is it your industrial or your retail? Or?
Yeah, I think it is industrial.
Yep.
And we're seeing some buildings almost, accidentally get to carbon positive because
too small. Yeah.
Yeah, because you go in and because we're also retrofitting some of these existing facilities. And so you retrofit and you've got an indication of what they're using before the retrofit. And then you do the retrofit and you've got a rough idea of what the saving might be. So you work out how much solar and you'll need based on the new energy efficiency gains that they're going to get. And but sometimes you might not get that. You might overspec the solar, for example, and then so we're finding we've got one tenant that's just been getting zero bills for like 6 months.
Happy tenant.
Happy, yeah, very happy tenant. So I think the industrial sector is definitely the easiest, and then after that it gets challenging. But I'd probably go residential, like attached or detached housing, so lower density residential. And then it kind of moves into medium density, high density retail, all pretty challenging. Office, start to get challenging.
Definitely.
Just as you imagine.
So you got a roadmap for 10 years to be carbon positive. So what's most exciting for you with this big journey that you guys are about to undertake?
Well, I think it's being open-minded, about what some of the solutions might be, and setting out and knowing that we don't have all the answers. Like it's a bold thing to do, to kind of set a target, knowing you're not going to have without having all the answers. So for me, I'm excited about the new, not only the new technologies, but the interaction we're going to have with customers around understanding why we're doing this and communicating the benefits to them. With staff, also coming up with interesting new commercial structures to kind of make this happen, through how we structure leases. some of these buildings turning into energy generation assets. That's it's a pretty big shift in the thinking of someone maybe buying an apartment or a townhome, thinking, oh well, on kind of the collective of all these roofs, and maybe in the basements there's an energy generation system. So it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see. We've got some idea of the technologies that might emerge, but who knows what else will come up.
Yeah.
The role of electric vehicles and the interesting things that'll start to do, and how much property developers will integrate the control of that. Because all of a sudden you've got a bank of batteries sitting in your building that are mobile. So, if you can control some of those, you can start to do some really interesting things. If you can control when they charge and when they maybe discharge.
Yeah.
And provide customers with, some kind of incentive to allow you to have that control, but also allow you to have that control in the building, within their apartment as well, or within their home. Demand control, I think, and automation in homes and in buildings generally is will be a big part of the solution. I'm really excited about.
Yeah,
that.
Awesome. Sounds like a really exciting challenges you got coming ahead. And what about what do you think will have the biggest impact on the buildings industry in general in the next, say, few decades?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Wish I knew, because I'd probably make some strategic investments. But I think across the board, like it's got to be the digital disruption in some way. So I know that's pretty broad as a kind of a comment, but. Maybe if we pick automation, like wherever you look, automation, in terms of different building property sectors, automation is going to change things. So if you look in the industrial space, the role of automation inside the warehouse is going to fundamentally change how the physical representation of those buildings, what they're going to look like, because you may not have people in them.
Exactly.
The shape of them might change to fit the equipment, because the equipment's much more expensive than the actual kind of skin you put around it. So automation in that space would be interesting. Automation in homes, like it's creeping up on us without us even realising, and that's the beauty of it. I don't think it's going to be like this dawning of all of a sudden our homes are going to be automated, but I've become a little bit addicted to my Google Home device.
Yeah, I'm the same with Amazon Alexa.
It's crazy. Like, I wouldn't have even contemplated that, but you start to see these devices coming into your life and simplifying things, and you kind of go, well, that's convenient. And if you just perpetuate that out, I think we'll get more of that. So in that residential, in the retail space, you start to get, a lot of opportunity around how people are being tracked, what they're doing in a space, how they're shopping, their behaviours, what they like before they actually, like once you identify they're there, how you kind of give them advice on what to do.
Yeah, I've heard about that one.
Yeah. So that kind of mix between automation, AI, I think is really exciting. And bring it all together. I know there's experts out there that know a lot more than us, and we're kind of keen to work with some of those around understanding our role a bit more.
Definitely. Awesome. All right, well, thanks for coming on the show. And if people want to find out more about yourself and your developments and some of these initiatives that you guys have got going, where should they go?
Look, they can, obviously, if they want to find out about Frasers or Real Utilities, they can just Google those and find their websites. If they want to get in contact with me, probably LinkedIn is the easiest way. Happy to have a chat and tell them a bit more about what we're doing. Yeah.
Phenomenal. Hey guys, Adam here. Just before you go, just one quick request. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a review. It helps our rating and ranking on iTunes, so more people can hear from the people who are making our cities better places for our future.